Good morning, everybody. This is Diggs. It's another beautiful day out here in the Pacific Northwest, and surprise, we are getting the Boar coming out this week, which is really surprising. We're going to talk about what's going on here. They're moving things around. We're going to be getting a different episode, it looks like, so let's go ahead and dig in. So the biggest thing, probably unexpected by everybody, is that we are getting the 4-star Boar familiar. Now, if you've seen this familiar wasn't released until episode 6 on the Korean side. Most people are probably going to want to know, what does the Boar do? So I will get into that in just a second, but I think it's important to point out things are changing drastically from how they were on the Korean side of the game, and I think it's for the better. I'm pretty excited for this. Some people are saying this is a change designed because of potentially Higgledy Factory coming out, or some of the other Higgledy events as well to coincide with this, but it does look like we are getting episode 6 released in its entirety, because one of the notes here under new events says that this is the cooking competition episode Eve event, and the cooking competition was episode 6 on the Korean side. So we are getting things that have actually come out relatively recently in comparison to what we've actually seen on the global side, which is crazy. And I'm wondering if we're going to see a lot of quality of life come with that. You'll notice under the update notes here, one of the things that they talked about was UI and UX improvements, right? Specifically for collecting gifts from familiars, filtering and sorting features from friends lists, being able to open all of a certain type of a chest in your inventory. These are all things that I would imagine are linked to a version of the game on the Korean side that is like a higher tier version, right? So it makes sense that as they're bringing these versions and they're changing event releases like mount accessories, right? It makes sense that we're also getting the quality of life improvements that they also have on the Korean side. So one of the things that really stands out to me here that I'm really loving and that I'm really seeing is that not only are we different, they're also focusing on quality of life as well. Now, there are a couple other things coming out this week as well alongside of these, and we will talk about what the Boar does. We are getting the Fight for the Throne content, which should be coming out on Wednesday. We're going to be getting the pet system, which I talked about in another video. Should be interesting. I'm saving my Asterite this week so that I can buy the pet summon tickets so that I can show them off on stream, and I don't know if there's going to be a variety, if you're necessarily going to be able to purchase some or just purchase tickets. They haven't really released the full details of this yet, so we're kind of waiting to see. One thing interesting here, customized playstyle, selectable quest play mode. There hasn't been any details on this. I've talked to Thin Bear, who does play the Taiwanese version of the game, and we couldn't really figure out what this means. His kind of initial thoughts were that it could be potentially adding to various play modes that don't have it already, specific builds, like equipment builds, but we just really didn't know what this was. We are getting the new familiar, which is going to be the Boar. Now, the Boar has a kind of initial version and an updated version on the Korean side. Everything that we've seen, we've gotten the unupdated version of the familiars. So what that means is there was a recent change that implemented some of the party, some of the effects of familiars to have party-wide effects, and we haven't seen those effects. So with the Boar, what we're looking at is his passive is going to reduce earth damage taken by 1%. Each food effect is going to increase defense by 1% with a cap of 5. And then in the kitchen event, he's going to get the damage increase that Toko had. His Awakening 7 is going to reduce earth damage by 5%. Each food effect increases defense by 2% up to 10%. So very powerful. His other ability is going to make, or his update basically made it so that allies take less wood damage or less earth damage. His other ability in Familiar Adventure is going to be when a familiar dies, he's going to gain attack power increase, defense increase, and HP increase up to 4 times. And we actually have a video to show that Thin Bear shared with me. So shout out here. This is from the Big Rabbit channel. Now, this video does show what happens if you do take your boar into a combat-like event. And what you're going to see here is all of the familiars are going to die and literally the boar is just going to go completely destructo on them. And literally, we were memeing all night that his name should be Hot Ribs, that he's gonna cook himself, that he is, you know, just super hilarious. It is animated really good. I love to see the buff. But this is how his buff is going to work in Familiar Adventures. So it is going to be pretty powerful, and hopefully we will be able to awaken 10 him similar to Toko. I personally am really excited, and I also wonder if there isn't going to be a little bit of a power shift here, because very similar to how Toko was extremely powerful, right? Very similar to that, we now have the Boar, who is a familiar that was released later on in the game, right? He was released later in the game, so he's going to be released at a different time. He potentially has different stats, abilities accounting for different things. So I do wonder if maybe this will power creep just a little bit the actual game, just because he's a familiar that's literally we're not supposed to get for like 5 or 6 months right now at this point. Outside of his passive, his active flings a rock at the enemy and stuns burned enemies. So he's not really going to be necessarily like a Toko, which has like a homing stun. The enemies are going to have to be burned. So he's not going to be incredible. But the fact that most of us are probably going to be able to get him awakened 10 does mean it's probably going to be pretty good in the long run. Now, along with all this, we do have some events going on that are going to be happening this week. So we do have the cooking competition episode Eve event. Now, I imagine this is going to be like the last episode Eve event where we are going to get like a free copy of the Boar, very similar to how we got a free copy of Toko. We're going to get the Capital Update celebration event, Fight for the Throne opening event, Evermore travel guidebook for new soul divers. Now, I'm wondering if all players are going to get this Evermore travel guidebook, because this could potentially give older players a whole host of items, right? Because we have guidebooks already, and they do give a lot of really good stuff. So there could be a lot of really good stuff coming our way. It may not be the most relevant, but it could be interesting. It's going to be really interesting to pay attention to the updates and see how the game actually changes over the next couple of days. I've heard a couple people a little bummed out that it's another fire familiar, because we were expecting to have the water healing familiar potentially this week, followed by episode 2, which would be the cat familiar, which is the water attack based familiar, which is for free, and then of course the leaf support familiar as well. So it's really interesting what's going on right now. I'm curious what your guys' take is, and yeah, I'm kind of excited. We're also gonna be doing a lot of Tower of Fantasy this week, so I hope you guys are hyped for that as well. Thanks so much for watching, everybody, and I hope you guys all have a great rest of your day.